Hello and welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. So I asked a question, I think it was a couple of days ago in one of the messages or in one of the readings. I think it was the thank you reading. I was talking about the Divine Masculine who had communicated with me that watches this channel. And I know that there's probably more than just one, but there is one that I've been talking with. So we call him our resident Divine Masculine. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. I didn't know if he was still watching, and I wondered if maybe anything was happening. So I mentioned it a couple days ago, and I got a note. Now it was a relatively short note, and I'm allowed to use the contents of it, but it was just, I'm still watching. I could really probably benefit from a little bit more understanding. Will you please do a messages video? So we're going to do that today. This is messages from the Divine Masculine to the Divine Feminine. So it's a message, or it's a reading that we've done before. And sometimes we've even done it with some of the words of this Divine Masculine included. And I'll never forget one of the first things I ever said from him, which was, I'm as confused as you are, you know. So we're going to go ahead and get in and do this reading and see what will come out here as far as Divine Masculine messages. And then hopefully it's helpful not just to the feminines that are watching this, but the masculines who are also watching it. And remember, Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine doesn't have anything to do with what gender you are. You can play either role in the relationship. We both have the masculine and the feminine energy within us that needs to be balanced. And the role that most of the people that are watching this are playing is the role of the Divine Feminine. So that's just a little bit of background on that, and I think we've talked about it, but I just like to be clear. So this is going to be a general reading, and it will be for this collective, which means it's not going to resonate with everybody, and it shouldn't. It's going to resonate with members of this collective, people you know, the people that are going through exactly this. So I've gotten notes from people that say, well, it resonated for a couple, but then after that it didn't feel like it was me anymore, and that's okay. I mean, and even if you are working through your healing, you may get to a place where you say, I need to not listen to this for a little while, and that's okay too. That's part of your path, your healing path. This is here for anybody who wants to avail themselves of it. So, taking a look at the Divine Masculine messages, we're going to get a feel first for that energetic and emotional backdrop that happened quickly. So, we've got the Eight of Pentacles. This is hard work. It's feeling like doing hard work, but not necessarily feeling like that mastery is already there. So, the Eight of Pentacles can be a card of emotional self-mastery. It doesn't give me that sense. It more has the sense of hard work happening. So let's see. What else wants to come out for that? We've got the Queen of Wands. There's still a lot of tumultuous, how can I put this? It's about attraction, but it's really disruptive attraction. It's tumultuous attraction and working very hard. Again, with the Eight of Pentacles, we have a repeating message, which is significant. So we have the Queen of Wands and the Eight of Pentacles. There's a lot of energy. It's like trying to get a lot of something through a very small opening, and working very hard to make sure it's managed properly. Not just working very hard to get it through, but working to make sure that it's managed properly, because this is something that matters, how it's managed. It matters to your person. It matters to you. Neither one of you wants to just, you know, to dump it and destroy it. You know, and definitely that's been the behavior of some of these Divine Masculines in the past, has been to dump it and destroy it. And we know from explanations that came from our resident Divine Masculine in previous readings that, you know, it's not so much that they didn't want to be in this relationship. They had no idea what to do with it, and it was so frustrating and so much pressure building up, that's the way that it kind of came out. There's a significant truth that's coming through. It's part of why they're working so hard, but it's also part of why they have to work so hard. And it's part of why there is so much emotion and intensity trying to come out of this small opening. There's a lot that all of a sudden blossoms into being, and then it's as if something in a small area starts to expand and there's not enough room for it to expand. So it feels like it's got to come out once again someplace. Um, that is not a stable feeling. So, like, not stable as um, in chemistry, you have bonding sites on um, on your atoms. You have electrons that can bond to other atoms, and if you have open ones, it's an unstable atom. It's looking for something to bond with, so it's basically unstable because it's not going to stay the way that it is. This is that kind of lack of a stability where it's not going to stay the way that it is. We have the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. There could be some pretty significant changes. Ooh, and the Ten of Chalices in reverse. There could be some pretty significant changes that are happening here as a result of a lesson that has been learned. So there's something that's shifting for both of you here. I feel like the shift might be a little bit more significant in the physical environment for your person, whereas what's happening with you may be happening more in a spiritual and emotional shift. But there is a lot going on. This is, again, not a stable situation, not something that's going to stay the way that it is for very long. Feels like something's got to give. That's the energy of today, the feeling that something's got to give. But it doesn't necessarily feel like anybody's in a rush to make a bad decision about it, or maybe even not a huge rush to make a decision about it. And yet there's this Knight of Chalices, which is coming back with that. Yesterday, it came out with this feeling of, but I want to be charismatic. And I was kind of like, that's not always something that comes up with this. Here it is. Here's that feeling of, I think I've got this. But it's like charisma while the world is falling apart around you a little bit. So it's kind of got an interesting feel to it. And with this Five of Swords, it does have that sense of not engaging in battles that don't make any real sense. That's both of your energy. I think that one's remarkably shared. The Five of Swords in reverse is very shared. It's both of you kind of not spending a bunch of energy or time on things that don't make sense. We're done. For you to send energy or time on. Okay, let's go ahead and get into these divine masculine messages. And for these, it's always helpful to have that backdrop of kind of what is the environment right now, so that we have some idea how to evaluate this, what's the context in which we want to take that. And we see here, again, definitely a lot of things that are, it's an unstable situation in that it's really not inclined to stay the way that it currently is. So what kind of messages are out there from this divine masculine to you? What would the divine masculine tell you if they had the opportunity to tell you without repercussions? And so does that make it maybe some divine masculines would like for the message to self-destruct and for them to be able to tell you whatever they want to tell you without having repercussions, and then you forget it all, so you don't even have to live with it, or they don't have to live with you knowing. More likely, I think you'll be fine with what you hear. I think it's more a matter of them feeling like they can't have that on their ego. But let's see. I understand it's an incredibly confusing time based on what our resident divine masculine has said. They're holding on to something that's not doesn't make sense to hold on to. So this is something that they know they need to let go of it, but it's like it's an idea. It's an idea, or it's an ideal, something that they were raised with. They feel like they kind of have to drag it around with them. It's heavy. It's not necessarily something that they want, and it's almost too heavy for them. But they are doing their best to continue carrying that, whatever that torch is. They're trying to work through something and having a hard time doing it. They understand that they haven't made the investment in you that they would obviously have made had they known more about the situation, or if they were more comfortable with the situation. So for those of you who are receiving communication now, and like I said a couple of days ago, all of a sudden this communication feels a little bit different because it's not the first time the two of you have interacted with one another. You have some experience. This is like, if they had known then what they know now, they would have interacted very differently. They weren't ready when they met you. They feel very much like they weren't ready, but you helped to get them ready. So they couldn't have been ready to meet you without meeting you. And it seems kind of weird, but you triggered them into learning some things that they wouldn't have been able to learn, or they feel they wouldn't have been able to learn without you. So that's what this Nine of Wands in reverse is. That's you bringing down some of those defenses that they don't believe have been brought down any other way. So with the Empress card, though, that's them feeling over and over like, I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready to do this. I made a mistake. I didn't know what I was dealing with, and I wasn't ready. So I have a card that fell down there, and it did not fall upright or wanting to be used as part of the reading. Let's see. We've got a Two of Swords. They understand they have a decision to make. They also understand they've been sitting on it for quite some time, feeling blind to what the real impact is of decisions that are just like the ways that they could go. They aren't completely blind to that, and that's part of what the truth is over here, but it's still not necessarily just because they know it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to make that decision. So you've got this truth coming in, and then as a result, this decision that has to be made. It is not a simple decision, and again, it's not a surprise. It's just one that they've been able to put off for quite some time. Fair amount of love. Fair amount of love that they feel for you, but they don't have any idea how to express it without things getting weird. And that's not my words, but words that were just popped into my brain there, or into my heart. There's definitely a feeling of, I want to express something, but it's got to have limits because I got to make sure that it doesn't look out of control. That's really what it is. But things won't slow down enough for them to truly have the, oops, sorry, that's supposed to be there. I'll get to this one in just a second. Things won't slow down enough for them to feel like they are calm enough in the situation. They feel like they would get together with you and talk, or in some cases they're maybe having some communication, but it hasn't gotten as fruitful as what it seemed like it was going to be. We had some pretty promising communications that were popping up here in the last few days. What I would say here is, don't be surprised if this person starts to kind of flood and maybe back off a little bit. It doesn't mean that the love isn't there, but it does mean that they are maybe struggling with kind of some of these defense mechanisms that have fallen, and this decision that needs to be made. Not to say that they've figured out what to do about the past where they feel like they've missed an opportunity and made a mistake. So we've got the Page of Wands here. They realized at the time that they lacked perspective, and they realize now that they have some passion to go in your direction. But they also recognize that both of you have changed. So it's really kind of a curiosity about, well, I wonder what has changed, and I wonder what else there is to know. And so they are very curious about kind of coming into your orbit, but they don't want to get stuck there. They're very concerned about getting stuck there because they have not mastered getting out of it. And in fact, they have never been able to break that orbit. They definitely know that when they met you, they were missing an opportunity. They feel that they are currently still missing, or not an opportunity, a perspective. They were missing part of their perspective, and now with the Tiny Elephants card in the reverse, they are aware that they've still got some outstanding developments. They know they haven't figured it all out just yet. All right, let's see what else wants to come out here for this. We've got the Nine of Chalices in reverse. They have to go back to the drawing board as far as thinking is concerned. Remember, there's been all of this need to go on a quest, need to understand what it is that truly makes you happy. They are feeling like they're at a little bit of an impasse with themselves with that. They want to get into a situation where they are able to do equal give and take, but they have no idea how to do this. And honestly, I would say they need to watch the video that happened yesterday, the What Does My Soulmate Want from All This video, because it would help to explain why it is so difficult to do that equal give and take. So there's a desire to make things right. But there's not necessarily an ability to do so. And that Queen of Pentacles that just peeked out there was an honorable mention because of the way that they regard you. They regard you as something to shoot for, something that something that they would like to be able to. They don't want to be you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are some elements of you and your personality, who you are, that they really just aspire to be that good. It's like you don't give up on things as easily as they do. Or I think that's not going to be for everybody, but it's something that's coming out. Dropped a whole bunch of cards. They all fell face down. But we got the Five of Chalices. So there is a budding and beginning sort of ability to look at the situation a little bit more broadly and a little bit more, dare I say, maturely. It's kind of got a feeling of not just seeing the bad and the good, but also being able to see the opportunity for transformation. That's what we typically see with this Five of Chalices when it comes out for this group. The Five of Chalices feels like that, and that's true, but it's like they don't know how to unlock it. There's a strong sense of them not know. I'm done. There's a strong sense of them not knowing how to unlock it. Okay, so this is a lot of them saying, I admit that I've got you kind of in this place in a holding pattern, but I'm not exactly sure how to come out of it. I have good intentions, want to be able to interact with you properly, but I don't even know what I don't know, and it concerns me. Also, things won't calm down enough to really understand, to help me understand. I still don't exactly know what I want as far as what the big picture looks like. I have little slivers of it, but not the whole thing. And there's a sense of I came in here at a disadvantage. I was so unsure at the very beginning that I made a mistake and didn't invest. And now I'm still really working through it because the bottleneck that we're finding is that set of values that hasn't really shifted completely. Okay, so that was a lot of kind of first person the description of how these cards feel. But that's true. We've been seeing the values attempting to change within your person for some time here, and these are values that they were really raised with. It's not simple. It's not something that you can simply say, I now see some truth and I'm able to walk away from what I've always expected and understood. Because these values are not just simple truths, they're also woven throughout the texture of all your thoughts and your personality. So I feel like we need to get into the extended a little bit more to get some additional messages. I know we're going to get into the extended, and I think that's how we want to spend that time. So, and I will say what I've said in the last, in some of the previous readings, the extended ones are feeling almost like personal readings because it's so many fewer people who go there that it's like a handful of people that I'm reading for. That's what it feels like compared with the people who tune in here. So we're going to get in and get some messages. Those might get to be a little bit more specific, but we're certainly going to give them the opportunity to go a little bit deeper. But before we go in there, we have to do our service to you. And this collective is all about healing. So this is a question for the Divine Feminine. What does the Divine Feminine need to focus on given what we're seeing here, and kind of, I guess it feels like a holdup, but moving in the right direction. Based on all this, what does the Divine Feminine need to be focusing on? That's the question we want to ask. Okay, so we have the Two of Cups. All right, so this is what about this situation is creating issues with the partnership and the bond. Oh, and it's like it's not really, it's a rhetorical question a little bit, but not really. It's something that has come out regularly in the readings that is coming out as the answer to this question. So it comes out like it's a question, but really it's it's how do you break that expectation and assumption chain? How do you and we saw this in yesterday's reading, how do you not be attached to the outcome? That's very much where your focus would ideally be in this situation. It's about staying away from focus on the outcome or assumptions or expectations around the outcome, and just kind of taking an easy does it approach with the whole thing, which is very challenging. That's yet another card that I have dropped that is not going to be part of the reading. We have the Devil card in reverse. You got to be able to let this thing let you go. So it feels like it's got its hooks in you a little bit. And it's like I said to somebody in a personal reading not too long ago. It's like you have to be able to, in order to make something not be able to get its hooks into you, you have to be able to create kind of a hard shell for yourself. And it's got to be a permeable shell so that your emotions can get in and out, but a hard shell around yourself so that when they try to put the hooks in you, they just kind of slide off. And so these are like those devil hooks. This is something that controls you, that wants control of you, and maybe even something where you're kind of allowing it to happen because it's like an addiction or an obsession or something that feels very comfortable to keep doing and uncomfortable to stop doing. So it's kind of got that feeling to it, but it feels like, your focus is on ending that devil energy. You do have some thinking to do, some going off in your thinking cave and finding some wisdom, new wisdoms that are coming to you. And there is a sense here that you've got somebody that's coming to help you out. So we already know that there's another soulmate coming your direction. I don't know if this is that, though. This has the feel of an old friend. Somebody that when you talk with them, you really there's not a lot of catching up that is required in order to get in the groove with this particular old friend. And I feel like really leaning into that conversation and allowing yourself the healing that comes from it might be good, especially if this is somebody that you have historically given a lot to and they've done a lot of the receiving. It might be time now for a little bit of the tables to turn and for you to do some of the receiving, but you have to let it happen as much as they have to be enabling themselves to do it. This Eight of Swords is coming out for you again, and it feels like this is something that's been coming out for you just an awful lot over time here lately. As far as the obsessive thinking and that just being an incredibly difficult thing to overcome, it's something that may be coming back towards you at this point, possibly because of that Venus retrograde energy that has you really kind of resolving things out of your past and doing some of that personal reclamation, personal reconciliation sort of energy can lead to the overthinking. So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure that it's useful, but not getting to a point where it's no longer useful. And you got the right kind of energy for it. You've got really great protection. Oh, and the High Priestess. I was just about to start saying the message of the High Priestess that's coming out with the High Priestess without looking at the cards. One of those things that I'm trying to remember to do and pay attention to the cards that come up, because sometimes I will talk about them and then look down and realize what I just described is the feeling that's on that card. So here, I was about to do it again. The Seven of Wands is that card of protection. The High Priestess is that connection with that higher protection. So this is going to be higher self. It's going to be your intuition, your higher power. But whatever you are connecting most strongly with, I would just say continue to encourage that connection, because that's going to be part of what helps to pull you off of some of this obsessive thinking, and part of what helps to remove and disconnect some of that devil energy and let some of those hooks slide off of you. And devil energy can come in a lot of forms. It's any kind of control that that someone wants to have over you, or that something has over you. So whether it's another person or some kind of substance. All right, and so we've got the Three of Swords, except I'm going to step over here and shut the door real quick. It comes open when the dog comes in, and I don't want to lose my flow and have to kind of restart, so I am just going to stay right where I am. Sorry for the interruption. So for the Three of Swords coming out here, this is you. This is part of the healing that you're doing right now in that personal reclamation. There is some pain inside that you'll need to get in and kind of get a little bit closer with to understand it, so that you can get to a place where you're able to eradicate it. But we've got this Justice card in here saying, make sure that it almost feels like a Six of Pentacles, like the Six of Pentacles over here. Make sure that you're not taking less than what you're worth. You're not taking less than you're giving. This is an important piece here, particularly as you start to think about whether or not you're going to be attached and how you're going to detach yourself. Sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit of just rational thought to help detach you from an assumption. And sometimes it takes doing it multiple times, because simply saying, okay, this is not a way that I want to be treated. So in some moods, that's enough for you to say, all right, I'm going to start to disconnect from that. But in other moods, it might not be enough for you to actually activate the disconnection from the attachment. And it's not the person that you're looking to detach from. It's really the assumptions about that person, expectations about that person, and expectations and assumptions about the outcome. Wishing that things would happen. That sort of wishing for the outcome actually creates some limitations for it. And so this is once again, just kind of a reminder to try and stay away from that where you can. It's hard. We all want things to happen, particularly as we're looking to manifest our futures, but it's about co-creation, and not being attached to the outcome is a big piece of that. So with the King of Pentacles here in reverse, this is about addressing this kind of a fear. It's a fear, but it's more of an imposter syndrome that you may have in you. Your person really has looked up to you in a lot of ways, and that's what we're seeing in some of these messages. But what I don't think we truly understand is what that means. Like, how are you seeing yourself? And there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between what they think you're capable of and what you think you're capable of, regardless of what they're telling you. It's there's a lot of looking up to you as being kind of amazing. So we've also got this Page of Swords in reverse. Be aware that you may have a desire to kind of run and hide particularly when you encounter the new soulmate that we know is coming. But there may be just some very basic situations that give you the desire to just kind of get out of the place and to run and hide. It's going to be associated with this King of Pentacles in reverse kind of feeling, that feeling of, well, maybe I'm not really good enough for this. I'm done pulling cards here, but I feel like we need to continue into this as we go into the extended, just to get a few more messages around where you can focus. And I'm trying to decide if I want to keep it in the near term or maybe take it to more in the long term and get a broader look at your lessons. But what we'll definitely do with your person is go a little bit more deeply into the messages, because we know that this is unstable energy and that it's not going to stay the way that it is. So let's understand a little bit more of what it means for these messages, because what we see here is, hey, this is consistent with unstable energy and things not necessarily being able to stay the way that they are. But it's energy of movement, and it's things that they wish you knew, because it's probably taking a lot longer than either of you ever would have guessed. So we'll head on over to the extended. The link is down below if you would like to go to that. Otherwise, I will see you in tomorrow's reading.